Welcome back to Common Cues for Inspired Action, a feature identifying common questions that people have in this industry, whether you are a practitioner, a client, or someone that manages those that work in this industry. Take a look at the different possibilities or answers that each question can have, and hopefully, somewhere along the line, you can find an action that is suited to your needs. And so the first common cue that we are going to take a look at is one from a practitioner. And this is actually something that a lot of my students and colleagues have always spoken about, whether they are still in massage school or even experienced. And that common cue is, how do I solicit client feedback or know that they are pleased with their session? Simply wanting to know if your client is pleased with their session, there are many ways to know this. And first is the obvious. They actually state that they enjoyed their session. And one would think that if a client pays for their treatment and also offers gratuity, that this means that they were pleased. Although there is also some people that are just very stoic in their emotions and don't necessarily share with you whether or not they were pleased. So it's hard to tell, really, in some situations. But I would have to say that just because they paid and also offered gratuity does not always mean that they were pleased. Now, a story that I have when I was a manager is one where the client actually paid for the service, offered gratuity, and even expressed satisfaction with the service, not just to me, but also to the person that they were performing the checkout procedure with. But then the person got home and started thinking about a number of things and actually started paying attention to the things they didn't like about the massage, or started evaluating emotions that may have been coming up after the massage and equated that to the service itself. Ask that you not take a look at the immediate response that your client has in terms of whether or not they were pleased with their session. Now, massage is this very unique, intimate relationship between client and therapist. And it's also extremely important for a practitioner to create boundaries around the session, to clearly communicate, as well as set expectations. A client does not have a good experience with you does not necessarily make you a poor practitioner. It could just be a poor relationship between client and therapist. And so I want to emphasize that good evaluations does not make you a good therapist, just like bad evaluations don't make you a bad therapist. They simply offer you a gauge in terms of ways that you can improve. And so I want to exercise equanimity in all aspects of my life, and it's something that I also teach my students and mentees to sort of really be more self-aware and know yourself more and not rely on this type of feedback to sort of identify who you are as a person, as a practitioner, as a whole. So I just needed to note that. I actually want to share with you another personal story of when I first started out in this industry, and it was probably my second day at work, and I may have just, I don't know, probably the third person I worked on outside of fellow student or somebody that I knew. And the session was pretty intense, and the client continued to want to orchestrate the entire session for me, determine the pressure, determine the angle, determine the area that I was working on. And I really felt like I lost control of the session. It was to the point where I felt completely defeated and disappointed in myself, that as the client was preparing to come and check out in the front desk, I proceeded to go to my manager, and I just wanted to let them know that there was a potential complaint coming their way. And would you believe that this client actually rebooked a session right there and then when they were checking out, and became a longtime client of mine, I would say for about 8 years until they left the country. So what I thought was displeasure was actually just his personality. We learned how to communicate in a better way. I learned how to create boundaries upon which he was able to offer me constructive feedback, and he was also able to offer me more freedom as to expressing who I am as a practitioner. And it happened because I was able to create those boundaries myself. And so that was the lesson for me. But I don't want, this is an example of why I don't want you to take it upon yourself to think that a client's displeasure is a reflection of your type of work or the type of practitioner that you are. So further on, and so if you really want to know whether your client was pleased or not with their session, this is something that I highly recommend to everyone. And if you're not already doing this, I don't know why. This is something that all of my clients appreciate, and when I asked them or surveyed my clients in terms of why do they continue to come back to me or why do they refer other people to me, it really is about this one thing, and it's about our relationship. Now, do you follow up with your clients post-treatment to see how they're feeling after their session? I would say for all the massages that I've ever had in my life, I may have had 2% follow up with me, and I'm not so sure if it's because I have a personal relationship with many of the practitioners that I see, but even more so they should be reaching out, or maybe a large percentage of these experiences that I've had are in random places, maybe on vacation or whatever, and maybe they don't have an opportunity to follow up. I don't know. But it's just mind-boggling to me that so many people that I know do not follow up with their clients. Perhaps a few days, I generally reach out to my clients 24 to 36 hours post-treatment. And this is a good time to sort of gauge the effects of your work. If they come in with shoulder pain, I would say in 24 to 36 hours, they would be able to tell you if that shoulder pain is still present or not. If they have a decreased range of motion in a particular joint, which is why they're coming to see you, I'm pretty sure by then they'll tell you if that range had increased. If they had an inability to lift a certain weight or they've reached a plateau in their workout, they will again be able to tell you if they've been able to break that plateau. All of this information is not only valuable to the protocol or treatment protocol that you're creating for your clients so that you know that next time you see them, this actually produced this result or this did not produce this result, but it's also a simple reminder to your client that, hey, you know what, that shoulder pain is gone. So my number one tip in how to solicit client feedback is follow up. It's really super simple, super engaging, and also directs your work and helps tremendously. So that is this week's common cue for inspired action. And if you're a practitioner, I hope that this has inspired you. A simple text, a simple email, asking them how their session went. How is that shoulder feeling? Bring up the reason why they came to see you. You might even relate it back to something that was in discussion so they also know that you were engaged in the session and actually remember them. All of these little points count in developing better client relationships, and I promise you future repeat business, future increase in business, and future successful treatment outcomes. That's this week's common cue.